So the number one thing offensively is for Brian and Mike Bobo to develop some consistency in the quarterback play. There's been flashes of Bo Nix that have been amazing, and then there's been flashes that are subpar, and people are trying to figure out who is he. Bo Nix has been a guy that's been under a lot of pressure since he's been there. He essentially, the way people see it, wins the game against Oregon. So now all of a sudden you have this narrative that's out there that he's going to be the next two-time All-American, win the SEC championship, and beat Alabama every year. Those are unfair expectations. He was a freshman. He was getting used to what the speed of the game was. His development right now hasn't been what people expected.
But the quarterback's got to make steps. The quarterback has to make progressions. He's got to take big leaps as far as being a guy that knows how to play that position. And when I say that, it has nothing to do with throwing the football. Nothing. It has to do with how you handle your teammates, how you handle situational football. It's being presidential. It's being a quarterback. I mean, we talk about it in business. We talk about it in life. We talk about it in families. Like, you have a big family, like, oh, he or she's the quarterback of the family. Or a group of kids, like, he's the quarterback of that group of kids. Or you have a business, like, he's the quarterback of our sales team. You got to act as that. And to this point, a lot of times, Bo Nix has not acted accordingly. That has nothing to do with behavior. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but just how he handles himself on the field. If that doesn't change, they're not going to win 7 or 8 games.
He's got a real challenge with the offensive line. Although there's a lion's share of those guys returning, you're returning guys that haven't played well. And it's been a little bit of musical chairs last year with COVID and injuries and things of that nature. So it's going to be up to Will Friend to get that unit playing together and communicating well together.
I do think that the system can allow parts to be a little bit better than people think. It's no secret that the offensive line right now does not look like it'll be very good. There's not a ton of talent. There's not a ton of guys you point to and say, oh, first round pick, oh, guy that'll be in the NFL for a long time. They're just not there. But I do think an offense that's built around the stretch play, which is what this offense will be, and some of the morphing of the run blocking that'll take place are going to open up other things. I think quarterback mobility is something that you'll see utilized a little bit more in different ways. And then I think keeping the defense off balance by being able to present more even options of what you can do offensively. When I say that, I mean you're not going to be able to see a formation and say, okay, these are the 2 or 3 runs that you're going to get. Let's focus on those because we're not worried about everything else. It'll be an offense that's more evenly based on formation, based on potential plays that can happen, and based on what plays are actually run.
And the real challenge is going to be on the wideouts in the perimeter because they had a mass exodus out there with Seth Williams and Eli Stove and all these guys that are gone. But if you're ever going to hang your hat on anything in this league, you want to have a great tailback. And Tank Bigsby is that. He's got flashes of what the old Cadillac Williams was, and Cadillac is his coach. And I see those things in Tank.
It's Tank Bigsby at running back, and to me, I don't think you really lean on him to determine the success of Auburn. If Auburn can just be above average at receiver this year and Bo Nix improves just a little bit, which he will under Coach Harsin, I think there's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen because everything he touches at quarterback becomes better. If they get that and a little bit of improvement at receiver with all those new guys there, that's an offense that'll look better than last season. It'll certainly look more cohesive, and their defense is going to be a little bit better than it was last season.
Defensively, I think the D-line can be pretty good. I think J.J. Pegues could help a little bit. I don't think he's going to be a dominant defensive lineman this year, but he can help. I think Colby Wooden has a good year. One of the best group of linebackers in college football. They're going to be super active. They're going to make plays. You got plenty of numbers in the secondary. Donovan Kaufman's going to be an interesting kid to watch because I think he can play a lot of positions. He obviously knows Derek Mason's defense. He's a guy that football means a lot to.
Zacoby McClain's an excellent undersized linebacker. Owen Papo, great undersized linebacker who I think is really going to be a good player. And you've got, some players in the secondary with Roger McCrary and some guys coming back. But it's going to be Derek Mason's job to put these guys and mold these guys together. Let's be clear that these guys that are returning have been under Kevin Steele, who did a fantastic job there. And every year they seem to hold the point when the offense was struggling. And they're going to have to erase all of that stuff because they're not doing Kevin Steele's and executing Kevin Steele's defense. They got to get used to Derek Mason, what Derek Mason calls, and they got to be productive and on the same page, and they got to be there early because they've got talent enough for them to hold the point till the offense gets going. But eventually the offense is going to have to play into that mix.
The schedule is just filthy. I mean, it is brutal having to make that trip to Penn State and play a night game against what's most likely going to be a whiteout, and then have to go against the SEC West with Georgia on the schedule. It's asking a lot. I mean, it's asking a whole lot. So I've got Auburn in the middle of the West, and I don't think that means they're a bad football team. I think A&M and LSU probably going to finish ahead of Auburn. I think Ole Miss has a chance too. I picked them to finish ahead. But I think every team in the West, probably outside of Alabama, has a really good chance to be better than they were last year. Now, the records won't reflect that, but LSU could be a better team than they were last year and finish third in the West. Alabama could be a team that's not as good as last year and be undefeated. So I think A&M could be better than last year and not win the division. So I think Auburn could be a team that's maybe a little bit better than last year and still finish fourth or fifth in the West.
I still don't know with that schedule if they are able to win maybe more than 7 games, which might seem like a disappointment, but judge this Auburn team by how well-oiled it looks like on offense when you start getting to, game 6 or game 7, and if there's not as many mistakes as we saw, especially in the last 2 years of the Gus Malzahn era.
Talking a little trash on the field? Yeah, we get it. Trashing the state with litter? That's terrible. Keep it clean. Keep Alabama beautiful.